For those of you who don't know what this is all about, this is part of the event is part of the Australian Brazil Business Council webinar series called B.Talks. It used to be a live event, and now due to coronavirus, we are on a webinar format. The B.Talks are a series of events created by the Australian Brazil Business Council to allow our participants to share information, share knowledge, and learn about the important topics in the international trade for Brazil and Australia. This particular event is very special for us. We are now celebrating the 75th anniversary of the diplomatic relationships between Brazil and Australia in the year 2020. So we bring these special events, these special webinars to also celebrate this very important date. In today's event, the B-Talk, during this B-Talks, we'll be talking about the Brazil exports, especially an overview of the current market, an understanding of what are the shifts in supply chain and how we can benefit from it, and also a discussion about the most promising segments within the space. To get us started, I'd like to first introduce you to our guest speakers. We have Joaquim Penna, Deputy Consul-General of Brazil in Sydney, and the Head of Trade and Investment Promotion Bureau, SECOM. Igor Celeste is the Market Intelligence Manager at Apex-Brasil. Geraldo VB da Costa, International Business Manager at GLI Consultancy. And we also have Gleuto Serafim, Izon's CEO and Australian Brazil Business Council President. On behalf of the Australian Brazil Business Council, I would like to thank every one of you here, every one of our panelists for being here and sharing your knowledge. We do appreciate your time. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of His Excellency Sergio Moreira Lima, the Ambassador of Brazil in Canberra, and His Excellency Geraldo, the Consul-General of Brazil in Sydney, and all the diplomatic corps and all consular corps in this meeting amongst many distinguished guests. Thank you everyone for taking the time in your busy schedule as well. I understand that our days are very busy, although most of us are working from home or in some level of isolation. I would really like to thank everyone, and we are very appreciative of you sharing your time with us. And a special thank you also goes to our sponsors today, the Consul-General of Brazil in Sydney, because without them, we would not be able to host this event. Also, I'd like to thank our event partners, the Embassy of Brazil in Canberra, Apex-Brasil, Allstrade, Izon, Laneway Education, Ibre, and Latam Airlines. So thank you, all of you, for supporting us and making this event possible. Not only you, but also a big thank you to our volunteers, because we do, as the Australian Brazil Business Council counts on a lot of volunteers and people who donate their time to make all our events possible and all the things that we do for the community possible. So I would like to say a big thank you to our members, our board directors, our volunteers. Without your support, we will also not be able to make this day possible. If you are online today and you're curious about what this Australian Brazil Business Council is all about, feel free to reach out to one of our members. You can reach out to Carol Diniz throughout the morning to ask questions about what is a membership and what does it entail. And also, thank you everyone, and thank you for your participation. To get us started, to give you an idea of the format of today, the panelists will share their talk for 7 minutes, so they will talk about their topic. I will be letting you guys know when you have 1 minute left for your talk. And then after we have everyone's presentations, we will start the Q&A session at the end. So to kick off our event, I would like to invite our first guest. Joaquim Penna is the Deputy Consul-General of Brazil in Sydney and the Head of Trade and Investment Promotion, SECOM. Welcome, Joaquim. Please feel free to take control of the session.
Hello, Thais. Thank you very much for this kind words and for moderating this panel today. Good morning to viewers in Australia. Good evening to all in Brazil. It is a great pleasure to participate in this webinar sponsored by the Consulate-General of Brazil in Sydney and organized in a great partnership with the Australian Brazil Business Council. We at the Trade Promotion Bureau are very excited with the opportunity to talk today here about how to make the bilateral trade even stronger in the future. So let's start with defining my subject today. Next slide, please. Next slide.
No?
Gleuto?
Okay.
Thank you.
No, the previous one, please.
It's there now.
Okay. My role today as the first speaker is to take a look at the big picture. To be more precise, I will structure my presentation around this question: what could be done to increase Brazilian exports to Australia? So first, let us take a look at some data to visualize where we are. Secondly, we try to understand possible reasons for this perceived underperformance of our exports. And finally, we'll briefly comment on possible ways to increase exports. Next slides, please. Now, as you can see in this chart, in 2015, Brazil exported $400 million to Australia. In 2019, 4 years later, exports have grown to 456 million. While there was a relatively modest growth of about 14% in 4 years, the absolute level is still very low. Note also that Australia represents only 0.2% of Brazilian exports to the world and is the 53rd largest market for Brazilian exports. In all, my opinion is that this level of trade does not reflect the wealth of opportunities existing in Australia for many products and services Brazil could export. Next slide, please. One interesting point about the data is that there is a high dispersion rate in terms of the value added of the products Brazil exports to Australia. As you can see in this table, which shows the 10 main products exported in 2019, Brazil exported coffee and fruit juice, traditional products, which reflects the high quality and the high productivity of the Brazilian agribusiness sectors and food product sector. But also Brazil exported bulldozers and levelers and cargo vehicles and medicaments, which is a very diverse export set. This gives us an idea that there are opportunities in many different segments, some of them non-traditional, but they have been taken only limitedly by the Brazilian exporters, as you can see by the volume or the value of the total exports, which is around $400 million. Next slide, please.
Apologies for the delay in that. Apparently we have an internet issue.
Okay. Since I arrived in Sydney 3 years ago, we discussed this issue, these possible reasons for this underperformance. Let's take a look at some possible explanation for that and possible ways to help increase exports. One idea that has been presented is that trade is not bigger because the two countries have a low degree of complementarity and therefore are not natural trading partners. While tempting, this argument does not totally convince me. Brazil exports a wide range of products and services, and many of those are bought by Australia from other countries. Also, even in segments where both countries are highly competitive, like agribusiness and food products, if you look into more detail, we will find many potential trade opportunities. Just to give you one example of many, Brazil and Australia have both produced sugarcane and sugar, but Brazilian experience in sustainable ethanol production could be very interesting to Australia, especially now when climate change it's one of the hot topics in the international agenda. There is a clear opportunity for trading machines and technology related to ethanol production for sugarcane, and that's one example of one segment of agribusiness where both countries are competitive, but you still can find opportunities for trade. Another issue is sanitary and phytosanitary regulations and restrictions. Easing those restrictions could also be a way of enhancing exports from Brazil. If Brazilian fresh animal protein like beef, dairy products, and fresh fruits and vegetables were able to access the Australian market, it will probably lead to relevant increases in exports of those products to Australia. Distance and size of the Australian market could also partially explain the lack of dynamism in Brazilian exports. Proximity is an important factor in trade. The relative size of the market, together with the distance, might add up to a high cost of transport and logistics. Having said that though, I don't believe this is an unsurmountable obstacle. For some products of types of products, this logistical barrier could be a real problem, but while for some others, it's no big deal. I think in many cases you can find, if you research well enough, good ways of bringing your products from Brazil to here in an efficient way. From my observations in the last 3 years, the main reason for the underperformance of Brazilian exports is the lack of information, both in Brazil about the opportunities here, and among Australians about how diverse and sophisticated the Brazilian economy is. Brazilian companies, first of all, tend to focus primarily on the domestic market, and exports in general are just an afterthought. When they do look abroad, Australia is not a high priority. That's something we should try and help to change. Also, the image of Brazil in Australia tends to be quite limited. Sometimes Brazilian business people, including from the Australian Business Council, Australian Brazil Business Council, tell me how impressed and surprised Australians are when they go to Brazil and learn firsthand about the depth and of the industrial and services economy there. Finally, market intelligence about the prospect market, including its business practices, its particularities in consumer taste and market structure, is essential.
You have 1 minute left, Joaquim.
Thank you. Just as an example, a product like acai, the Amazon berry, wouldn't probably be a great success in Australia, in another country, without the extraordinary outdoor and sporty, healthy culture Australia has. Next slide, please. Well, to conclude, my main insight here is that the market information and market intelligence are key to identifying the opportunities in both traditional and non-traditional segments, and to put Brazilian exports in a path of higher growth. Apex-Brasil will talk later on about those opportunities in more detail. And I hope later I could, in the Q&A, talk a bit about how the Trade Promotion Bureau in Sydney could help Brazilian exporters and Australian importers in finding those opportunities and trying to adapt their products and services to the Australian market to have success here. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Joaquim. Excellent talk and a very big question to tackle, right? What can be done to increase the trade? And I think you did it very well. The thing that did stand out for me, and I think it's become more and more apparent as I become familiar with the international trade through these events, is that the opportunity is there. And what we need to do is educate the market, both in Brazil and in Australia, about these opportunities. And nothing better than market intelligence to do that, to really fill in that gap of knowledge and to open up the doors for all of these opportunities. So thank you so much for sharing, Joaquim.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to invite our second guest speaker. Igor Celeste is the Market Intelligence Manager at Apex-Brasil. He will give us a quick outlook of the sector, the segments for the future opportunities, and how Apex can help Brazil exporters. So welcome, Igor. I'll hand it over to you.
Morning, Thais and colleagues from Australia. Good evening to everybody who is watching from Brazil. It is a great pleasure to be participating at the B.Talks. I'd like to thank Australia-Brazil Business Council for the invitation and all the support. And also like to greet our partners today, Mr. Joaquim Penna from the Consulate-General of Brazil in Sydney, a traditional and very important partner of us, Mr. Geraldo Costa from GLI Consultancy, Mr. Gleuto Serafim, also from the Council, and also greet His Excellency Ambassador Sergio Moreira Lima. Thank you for the opportunity. My presentation will be based in the material I sent to all of you previously, so I'm not going to be passing the slides. I ask you to keep attention on me. So considering I have 7 minutes to speak, I will divide my speech in 4 main chapters. First chapter, how can Apex-Brasil help to promote business with Australia? The Brazilian Trade and Investment Promotion Agency has 5 main goals. Export promotion. We organize trade missions and trade fairs around the world. We conduct sector projects with 53 different industry associations. Australia is a priority market for at least 3 of them: textiles, fashion design, specialty coffees. If you are from those sectors, please get in touch to see how you can explore the Australian market inside those projects. We also capacitate companies to export. We have 44 training units around Brazil in almost all states. We also work in investment attraction. Brazil is a global destination for FDI, and we work hard on that as well. And in promoting investment from Brazil abroad by supporting companies to expand operations overseas. We also work with market intelligence, very well mentioned by Mr. Joaquim. We give free big data solutions for all Brazilian companies, such as the map of opportunities. It's open, it's free, you can go, you can see the opportunities in Australia, as well as market studies and market access publications to understand about tariffs, non-tariff barriers, regulations in different countries. In 2019, Apex-Brasil supported around 15,000 Brazilian companies in a global scale. So my second chapter is about trade outlook. Just give some compliments about the speech of Joaquim. Australia, we could do more. For me, Australia is an untapped market for Brazil. We have to explore more this market. So Australia was for example, in data from 2019, Australia was the 23rd destination of global exports, but for Brazil, it was only the 53rd. So this gap, 30 positions gap, is very important for us. Brazil had 1.2% of market share in global exports, but we only had 0.3% of market share in Australian imports. The conclusion, we are far away from our global competition level in Australia, so there's a lot of potential to be explored. Additionally, 88% of Brazilian exported value to Australia was responded by industrial products, value added, such as Joaquim also mentioned. We are talking, we didn't try to see each other's presentation, but we couldn't agree more. In Brazilian exports to the world, this share is 58%. So in Australia, we export more value-added products. That's very important for us as well. So we have in Australia opportunities for higher valued products. And despite being very strong in commodities and in agricultural products, such as mining and animal protein, both Brazil and Australia have a high trade complementary index, which could be very counterintuitive at first, but it's very interesting to understand that trade complementarity is even higher for Brazil and Australia than, for example, for the United States, for Argentina, or even for the Emirates, which are very important partners of Brazil. So, and another thing, most exports are led by large and medium businesses. So how can we insert the SMEs in this process? This is a big challenge, to insert SMEs, small and medium companies, in the process. Where are the trade opportunities? Using trade analysis methods from Apex-Brasil, we found out 386 products with opportunities in Australia. This is all in the map of opportunities. Go and visit our website, please. Among them are 85 goods with high dynamism and space to grow. We call it consolidation markets, consolidation products, products that they have space to grow in Australia, and they are beating competitors from other countries in the Australian markets. Among them, mentioning some of them here: equipment, machinery for construction, agricultural machinery, generators and electrical transformers. In the fashion segment, we have footwear, essential oils, cosmetics. For food and beverage, we have animal feeding, sugar confectionery, Brazil and cashew nuts, natural honey, soluble coffee. From the point of view of construction and home care, we would say, for example, wood products and knife and cutlery products. In services, it's very important to emphasize as well, services for high income countries such as Australia. Individuals usually spend more in services than in other countries, developing countries, for example. So we have to, in Australia, it's not different. So we have to explore the service sector.
We have 1 minute left, Igor.
Thank you very much, Thais. In terms of market access, our research showed Australia is very open. It's a very open country overall. Most import tariffs, for example, are 0%. For your help, we listed in the material some SPS and TBT focal point institutions in Australia. I have to just to say 2 cases of success. Small companies that started exporting to Australia last year: Cafés Pagliaroni from special coffee sector, very interesting case, and Prime Pro Extreme from the cosmetics sector as well. Small companies starting exporting to Australia last year. Each year, we have a lot of entrants in the Australian markets, and not only large companies. So this would be the main points I would like to highlight for you. Thank you very much, Thais, for the opportunity, and thank you for all the colleagues.
Thank you, Igor. Quite refreshing to hear that there's been a shift, not only from the big companies now trying to give the small and medium-sized enterprise an opportunity to showcase their products and services abroad. And I think what comes as a surprise for me, and I think you've mentioned this before when we had a meeting, is about the services space and how we are also exporting services, not only products. So there's a lot of opportunity there. For those of you who are watching today, the list of that you've provided us is extremely valuable. So we will be sharing the information afterwards with all the details in all of the potential segments and products and services. So thank you for that, Igor. As we go into our third speaker, I would like to invite Geraldo VB da Costa, the International Business Manager at GLI Consultancy. Welcome, Geraldo. Please feel free to take over.
Hello, everybody. For those who are in Australia right now, good morning. There's one Brazilian in Australia. I think he's a Palmeiras guy. I think it's Joaquim or something like that. And for those who are in Brazil, good evening. I'm an international business manager and consultant. I have my own company, and I'm an international trade university professor as well. And I have to say thank you for the invitation to Thais and to Carol, and thank you to Joaquim and Igor. The good news, Igor, that we have a space to grow, right?
Sure.
From private sector, I want to give you an idea about stories that I had in my life doing business in Australia and New Zealand. In the 80s and in the 90s, Insepa, a Switzerland company located in Brazil, with a factory in Brazil, used to sell tiles in both countries. In the 90s, I was part of the export division there. And we decided to to hire a sales manager or a sales rep to sell more in Australia. And after a while, we checked the figures and we lost space, we lost customers and so on. So we called some of them and they told us that we lost market due to bad communication with that sales local agent. So what I learned from this story, to generate results or better results, you must have outstanding communication or perfect communication with the market. In 2007, I joined DOCOL, a Brazilian tapware corporation, what we call in Brazil faucets or metais sanitários. DOCOL has a plant and production system in Joinville, in south of Brazil. They are the biggest producer or exporter in Latin America. And in 2008, we decided to increase the numbers and open and develop new markets. So I made some research, a list of possible customers, and I met the board of RBA Group, Australian group, in Frankfurt during a trade show. In that time, we discussed some possibilities for our taps, to sell our taps in Australia and New Zealand. So after the show, I visit them in Australia, I check their facilities in Australia and New Zealand, and I invite them to come to Brazil to know and to have better information about our company and our country. It was interesting for us because they couldn't understand why we couldn't sell taps in Australia before. And we started the project. We had to check the standards, the local standards in New Zealand and in Australia. And thanks God, everything was perfect. But we had to change something in our production. We had to change something regarding our taps and the components. And also we had to change our alloy, the raw material. So what we did, we spent more than $100,000 US in a year and a half before the first purchase order. So what I learned from this story, and I want to share with you guys, if you want to build a long-term client relationship in Australia, you have to invest. But first, you need a perfect synergy between your group, your company, and their company in Australia. Doesn't matter if it's a vendor or a supplier or a client, you need synergy. Talking about people, you need open communication. You need team builders and what I call team players. Put this information in your room service, in your kitchen, in your room at the company. Team players only. Otherwise, you are in trouble in Australia. And talking about documents, you need first a vendor agreement with important or the most important information for both sides. Otherwise, you're gonna fail. And finally, during all those years, during more than 20 years, I had a great opportunity to join trade shows everywhere, missions, special events, supported and organized by Apex, Igor. But I couldn't see anything in Australia during all those years. The world is changing very fast. Everybody wants to reduce risks right now. So after we have the vaccine, we have to organize special meetings in Australia, and we have to invite all the factories, all the sectors in Brazil to present themselves in an appropriate way.
You have 1 minute left, Geraldo.
No, I just finished. If everybody agreed to not ask me anything, I would be more than happy. No, I'm joking. Feel free to ask.
Excellent. Thank you, Geraldo. Thank you so much. Very interesting aspect that did come up, I think, in the last B.Talks. It's about that cultural intelligence. Sometimes it's not only about just bringing whatever you create, whatever you sell that works well in the Brazilian market straight to the Australian market. It's about having that cultural intelligence and adjusting it to the Australian market. So setting the expectations with the Brazilian suppliers that might be the case in many of their products and services. So very interesting. Thank you, Geraldo, for sharing.
Thank you.
And our fourth and last speaker will be Gleuto Serafim. Gleuto is the CEO of Eyes On and also the president of Australian Brazil Business Council. Gleuto, you don't need any further introductions. I will be handing it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Thais, and I would like to say thanks to all the other speakers as well as we went through this presentation in there and the talks. And I think at the end of these, we'll have a lot to offer to the listeners and to those who couldn't actually listen. Just to let you know, this session is being recorded so that we can actually review some of these components, and that we will be able to then participate by knowing more about these topics. I actually had a small presentation in here on some of the topics that I actually wanted to talk to you guys about, but let me see if I can actually just share my, I was the one supposed to be presenting this to you guys, but I now have complications on my own screen in here, so apologies for that. One of the things that I would like to highlight is the fact, I will share my screen, and I want to, it's only a few components in here. I believe that you guys will be able to see my screen now. We were having some problems with internet today. But one of the things that has been extremely difficult for us to perhaps see from Australia, from a Brazilian perspective, is what are the opportunities that we actually have in here. And I wanted to highlight to you that Australia is a country that deals a lot with importation. We don't manufacture many things in here, and we have a great opportunity to actually import a lot of things from the rest of the world, which is not actually competing with the internal markets. Just for you to have an idea, this is like from a couple of years ago, this has increased about 13%, I think, from the top of that. But we have in here $360 trillion in import to the different states in Australia. And what is actually that Australia is importing? And it's I think some of the other speakers highlighted some of the components that they already understand that Australia import. One of the things that I would like to highlight is that we see here the top trading partners in Australia, and Brazil is perhaps a long way down there, but we have a great opportunity now with everything that is happening around the world in bringing goods from Brazil to Australia and bringing a specific component that our company, for example, leverages a lot, which is it's not talked too much, but it's the area of services. I'll highlight in here a couple of the components, the top 10 imports Australia does from the rest of the world: machinery, mineral fuels, vehicles, and so on. Some of those components are components that Brazil have a very great excellence in providing them. I have some numbers in here in relation to that. Last year, Australia imported $30 billion in machinery, and most of them were in the area of agribusiness and different kind of components for our day-to-day operations here in Australia. Brazil exports quite a bit of agribusiness, agricultural equipment to Australia, but there is still a big gap of opportunity in there for us to increase that. I was very, very satisfied. Yesterday, I was speaking with our ambassador that we have been able to close a deal with Australia, and Embraer is back on the game in here. And I think one of the companies in Australia, Alliance, has purchased 14 aircrafts from Brazil with the possibility to buy more aircrafts for the regional replacement of the Fokkers in the regional market here in Australia, which is great news. And when I look at that, I basically think about persistence. A lot of companies that we speak to in Brazil, and we work with them, they tend to kind of give up sometimes because of the distance, because of the difficulties that sometimes are presented in dealing with Australia. But I have to say that those companies that have persisted, that have actually looked into this market in here and actually put some attention to it, it has opened a lot of opportunities, not only for Australia, but for the region. We have noticed that a lot of the countries surrounding Australia will buy the products that Australia have chosen. So if Australia buy equipment from Brazil, the countries surrounding Australia will actually buy the same things because they know that Australia have done the due diligence, and they will have support in here as well. So what we basically would like to encourage the people that are listening to us today, and those companies in Brazil that have an interest to look at this market, is talk to us. Talk to Apex, talks to SECOM, and talk to the Australian Brazil Business Council. We have a lot of access to government entities in here that are looking for specific solutions for specific regions. So why not become one of our members, and you will be invited to participate on those talks directly with the regional and local representations from for the different parts of the government and the private sector here in Australia. So one of the things that Thank you. I'm wrapping up. One of the things that I would like to say that this is positioning there for probably for our ambassador to and Joaquim to actually have a look in there. We as business people look at this map every day, and we wish that Brazil become one of those red ones in there, and that we have an FTA with Brazil and Australia. We are working on that, and I hope that one day we are able to enjoy some of those perks that those things bring to us. And I would like to basically say thank you for that. So that's basically all I had to say today. Come and join our Australia-Brazil Business Council, and we'll put you in front of every opportunity here in Australia.
Thank you so much, Gleuto, for sharing your thoughts and a lot of the numbers. I like seeing the numbers because it really quantifies the opportunity for those of you watching in the different sectors. And also, I think thinking of us becoming more of that, one of the top trading partners, if not in the top 5, but a significant trading partner in the future. And there's a lot of opportunity in that space. And I think everyone here, all the panelists here today, if you guys are listening, they can help you. We can help you make this possible. So if you do have, even so I saw someone asking in the chat, is it bringing from Brazil to Australia, also from Australia to Brazil? So I think every single one of the people here in this room would be able to help in that initiative and really strengthening this relationship. So thank you, Gleuto. This brings the talking part of our session today to an end, but we will start our Q&A session now. And to get started, to kick off the Q&A, I'm going to kick it off the same way we did with the talks. I'll ask Joaquim to be the first one to answer the question. And I think with all of this conversation has been very inspiring. I'm hoping for you guys as well listening, with understanding all of the opportunities there are out there. And I think that potentially a lot of people in the room share the same question that I have at the moment, is how can the Consulate of Brazil in Sydney help the Brazilian exporters and the Brazilian importers? So when and how would we come to you for help?
Thank you, Thais. Are you listening to me? Okay. As you said, the Consul-General of Brazil in Sydney has this Trade and Investment Promotion Bureau, Trade, Investment and Tourism Promotion Bureau. And the name is very long, but what we do is very simple. Our main goal is to support Brazilian exports to Australia and Australian direct investment in Brazil. As I mentioned in my presentation, our focus now is on collecting and disseminating trade information, strategic trade information, trade and market intelligence. And in practical terms, This means that we provide lists of Brazilian exporters to Australian importers that consult us. We provide lists of Australian importers to Brazilian exporters who consult us too. And we try to collect and disseminate trade and investment opportunities in Brazil or in Australia. We produce original research about specific products or sectors in the market in Australia, trying to help Brazilian exporters on how to adapt their products here. We organize business events. We assist in the organization of trade missions together with Apex-Brasil sometimes. And also we promote the tourism in Brazil. That's, in a nutshell, that's what we do. And we are happy to talk or to respond emails to anyone that consults us. You can see afterwards, you're gonna see on the chat of this webinar our contact details and with our websites and the ways of reaching out to us. And we are happy to help in any way you can to enhance the Brazilian exports to Australia and also the Australian investments in Brazil.
Excellent, Joaquim. What an amazing resource for all of you here on this call today, on this webinar, to really be able to reach out and gain all of this insight in both markets. I think one of the things that became very apparent during the conversations is understanding the different marketplaces is key for success, and really being able to count with the consulate to be able to get access to that information, to that intel is quite precious. So thank you. I'll be moving along to the next one. So just to spin things around a little bit, I'm going to move to Geraldo. Geraldo has, I love the mix of the panelists, because we do have a lot of people there helping in general terms, but Geraldo has a very specific knowledge because that's what he does for a living. He actually brings businesses across and does, let's say, the paperwork of it. You do the bureaucracy of it. You make things happen. So could you give me an idea of what are the important actions that people need to take in order to manage an international trade agreement? Because I believe that there's a lot of detail that goes into it. There's a lot of information. So what are the most important actions that people need to do to manage this international trade agreements?
Thank you, Thais. I have some principles, as I said before. In my opinion, we have 4 or 5 issues that we have to cover before we start a project management. We need a synergy between groups, companies. A company in Brazil and a company in Australia, they have to share information as much as they can before they start a process of vendor agreement, right? But they also need team players, because we lost a lot of opportunities during all these years. I'm talking about the 80s and the 90s. If we compare with now, we used to have better numbers in the 90s with building materials, for example. But we lost space due to a really bad communication. Australia, in our minds, is far away. So we grow up thinking about US and Europe, and we want to export to there, but we never understand the standards, and we don't like to understand the culture in Australia and New Zealand. That's maybe one of the reasons. That's why we don't have a perfect synergy and good communication with the Australians, right? But then we need a project management, something that, I'm sorry, all the Brazilians that are with us right now, but I have to be honest, we are not very organized. We don't like to manage projects in a good way. So lost space due to these things. In China, they call you every single day. Hey, yesterday you told me that you're gonna place an order. So until now I didn't receive, and we don't do that. So we need project activities schedule. We have to agree on that. So if we can do that, we can succeed. So this is very important, not for the Australians, but for the Brazilians to understand their culture. They are different. they are very specific. When they say that they need something for tomorrow, it's true. So we have to work hard today to provide all the information, because today for us is tomorrow for you guys, right? So this is the most important things in my mind, in my opinion. Thank you, Thais.
Excellent, Geraldo. Very interesting when you say, when you emphasize the whole aspect of cultural intelligence and market intelligence, and that's exactly what the Consulate, Apex, and Australian Brazil Business Council do and help, not sometimes together, sometimes as separate organizations, but that's pretty much what we're here for. But one thing that caught my attention is, and I think there is a preconceived notion of the Brazilians being a little bit disorganized, right? So when we are adapting our products and services to the Australian market, we should also adapt the way we do business to the Australian market. So it's not just changing the way what your product is, what constitutes your product. I think the posture, the ethics, and the way we approach business in Australia has to be shifted. There needs to be a shift there. And I think we are all of the organizations here, the Consulate, Australian Brazil Business Council, and Apex, this is what we're here for, right? This is what we do. We are here to really serve as that translation, not only for products and service in terms of market, but also in that communication, in building that relationship, in building those bridges. So very interesting. Thank you so much, Geraldo. And with that in mind, I'll move on to Igor. And Igor, we've explored what the consulate can do for us. We've identified a few challenges with Geraldo that we need to tackle. Can you tell us a little bit more about Apex-Brasil and how can you help the suppliers in Brazil come to Australia, and also the Brazilian companies, how can they benefit from this relationship? So just tell us a little bit more about this import relationship and how you guys will be helping us. Thank you.
Sure, Thais, it's a pleasure. First, I would like to stress the importance of the integration between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Apex-Brasil. I think we are two institutions, but one soul, I would say. Apex-Brasil is very connected with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, very. We actually we benefit from the capillarity and from all the embassies and from all the trade investments sectors inside these embassies to organize and work together in an integrated manner. So it's very important to emphasize that. So Apex-Brasil helps, supports with, as I said, we have 5 main goals, but market intelligence is very important for that. We covered a lot this kind of tools for the companies, but I would say we haven't had developing many trade missions, multi-sector trade missions to Australia in the last years, and I think part of the speech Geraldo made is about that as well. But I think there are opportunities for us to organize reactively the opportunities we find out. For example, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they are the MTAM we have around the world. They get information. If they get an interest from a buyer, they will say to us, we can organize the offer and understand who are the suppliers that can meet that demand. That's one way. Find the opportunity overseas, get to us. We use our cortex to understand which are the companies, Brazilian companies, that can offer and supply the kind of products that are being demanded, and then we can match things up. We don't have to expect to do a lot of big events, big trade missions, big fairs. Today, the world is changing very fast. So, digital tools are very important for trade right now. So we don't have to actually go with 30, 40, 60, 150 companies to Australia to see opportunities. We use virtual technology to put everybody together and to start connecting. Connection is very important. Connection doesn't depend on a presential connection, physical connection, but also virtual connection. So we have to use those technologies in favor because Brazil competes globally. That's important to say. Geraldo said we are a little bit unorganized, but we are the 9th largest economy in the world. We are the 6th largest destination for foreign direct investments. So we are a very important player in the global order. So for sure, we have to organize ourselves, but I would like to stress that use e-commerce, use digital, use virtual opportunities to increase the relationship. Do not expect to be crossing the road all the time with 200 people in trade missions or trade fairs, but to try to find alternative ways to promote this connection. Thank you, Thais. I hope I answered your question.
Oh, you did, Igor, and it's quite interesting because I think technology in the virtual environment was there, but one of the things that the pandemic has brought us is more familiarity with technology. So even for those of us who never used it, we used to do traveling for work and all that has been replaced with technology. And now that people are even more comfortable with it, I do believe that what you just said, that virtual experience and that virtual communication and integration will definitely impact the way the good old trade missions would happen, right? Do we need to bring 200 people across, or can we use technology to breach that gap in communication? So very interesting point, and I think very relevant to the moment that we're living in. So thank you, Igor. As I move along, I'll bring Gleuto on to the picture again. So Gleuto, everyone's spoken a little bit about what they do in helping businesses come from Australia to Brazil, in Brazil to Australia. What does Australian Brazil Business Council, how can we help? Can you give us a little bit more about that?
Well, I think this is quite interesting. I was...
Maybe if you want to turn your video off, I know, because you're breaking out a bit, Gleuto. A suggestion might be turn your video off to see if the audio becomes better. I know we won't be able to see you, but at least we'll be able to hear what you're saying.
Okay, so let's see if that will improve a little bit, because it has been a bit of a problem, my internet connectivity here today. I would like to say that the Australia-Brazil Business Council has assisted and been able to connect a lot of companies with communities, and we do believe that that's the way that we can actually communicate virtually today is a good way for us to reach out to different opportunities within Australia. At the moment, for example, Brazil is considered for a lot of the infrastructure work that is available here in Australia. We are going through a major construction part at the moment of the Northern Territory, with lots of opportunities, and those opportunities are in the infrastructure, in the building construction, in the telecommunications, in the consulting components for business. And one of the things that we do as part of our business is the importation of know-how. So today in the services industry, there is a lot of opportunities here in Australia, in the banking sector, for example, in the cybersecurity sector, and that has been one of the areas that we have been able to import a lot of those goods from Brazil today. And I find that through the Business Council, we have been able to connect a lot of those companies that have those services and those products to be placed here in Australia, and connect them with the rest of the opportunities.
Excellent, Gleuto. Thank you so much. I'm not sure, have you finished? Because I can't see you. I have no visual cue, so I will assume that you have finished. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do that as a wrap up. Yeah.
Excellent. I do think, again, a lot of synergy with what everyone is saying is that we're all saying it in different words, all of the panelists, but we're all saying the same thing. There are opportunities. There's a huge range of different opportunities, not only in the product sector, the service sector, for large and small businesses. And I think that that's one of the big things that for me was quite a surprise, because I always thought, oh no, import and export will be for big businesses, small to medium medium-sized enterprises shouldn't even be looking at it. But we do see now that there's a rise within the small and medium-sized enterprise and small and medium-sized business to really be a player in the game. And talking about players in the game, I'll actually move on to Igor. Igor, who do you think now are the competitors for Brazil? I think Gleuto showed a list of the main exporters to Australia, and we have the obvious China straight on the top. But who would be our direct competitors, in your opinion, in the international trade?
I guess it's clear, Thais, for everyone here that it's very difficult to compete with China and with the other Asian markets in terms of price. I'm used to hear that, or you compete in price or you compete in value, try to compete. I think the main possibilities would be connected with competing in value. If we compete in value, maybe the main competitors of us would be European countries, or even United States, Canada, and other kind of competitors like that. Not with the Asian necessarily, because they are very competitive, very near to Australia, and maybe the costs are much lower than ours to get inside the market. This would be the first guess, I would say. It depends most on the product. The product will say which competitor is the main one to try to beat. But I guess I would say we don't have to try to compete with China. I was talking to a businessman here in private. He was sending me some ideas, and he said, "Well, I'm not competing with China. They are looking for me because they think our product's better than theirs." So that's the main point, I think, to try to understand and to create a narrative that supports the competition of Brazil inside that market. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you, Igor. And I think that makes sense, because we are not in a position to compete on price. And I think the aim for this whole idea is to really bring high quality, high value products and services across that you would not find elsewhere. So thank you. That makes a lot of sense, Igor. So I'll move on to Joaquim. Joaquim, the Consulate of Brazil does a lot of initiatives, not only with export and import. You guys do a lot of things with our community, and you're here to help the community. And we're very appreciative of the role that the consulate plays with the Brazilian community in Australia. But what do you think we can do to help the Brazilian exports? What can the Brazilian community in Australia do to help? Can we do anything to help?
Well, you are doing a lot of things, Thais, in Australian Brazil Business Council, definitely helping the exports, organizing the webinar and many other efforts that you do. But I think that's an interesting question. I think along with the tools and advice that Apex-Brasil and the consulate can give the Brazilian exporters or the Australian importers of Brazilian products, I think that the Brazilian community here that is growing, or at least was growing a lot before the pandemic, is one great asset to exporters, to Brazilian exporters, in helping to adapt their products to the Australian market, their services to the Australian market. Local knowledge is very important. It's very important for Brazilian exporters to have someone here that can tell them what works and what doesn't work. And local taste is very important. I think sometimes the product could be very strong in Brazil and a big success there, but it won't work never here for some reason. It's important to know if your product is adaptable to the Australian market. I mentioned before the acai. I think that's one product that you can see that was a great success in Brazil, and it's a great success here in Australia too. And that means that there's something here in the culture and the consumer behavior that it makes it easy or makes it doable for acai exporters. But also, in other sectors, for example, I mentioned. I think I mentioned in my presentation the question of construction and building materials. even not only machine, but also other products related to building and construction. And I have talked to people what Brazilian community here working in building and construction were very keen on trying to bring those products here. They know that Brazil produces, and actually the call which Geraldo is mentioned is one example of those products that could be used in building, in construction. And Brazil is a very efficient and producer of those products. And the fact that we have people working here in building and construction that know what Australia needs and know what Australia wants of a product could be very helpful for Brazilian exporters to adapt their products and bring them to the Australian market. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. I think that concludes. Sorry.
May I say one word? Yes. I think that one point that is missing and that the Gleuto has, but I think we should stress, is the fact that just this week, Embraer showed 14 airplanes, E190, to the Alliance Transportation in Brisbane, Queensland. And this is a very important fact, because first it shows that we can do it. Second, because the conditions in the market currently are so challenging that no one would think that this would be under such circumstances. So just yesterday, the Aviation Australia, it says, what crisis? So if Embraer can do this in such a market, to sell 14 airplanes when you have problems with Qantas and Virgin and so on, and this shows that there is possibility, even when you have a challenge, for us to be there. These purchase, behind it, you have a lot of services. You have a lot of capacity building. You have a lot of training of pilots. So this is not a project, an instant project. It's a project that will take years and years. And it will also open the opportunity for Embraer to replace the Fokker here in, which is the Dutch airplane that you find everywhere in this market. And this means that Embraer is starting replacing the Fokker. And I think this creates an important momentum for Brazil's exports to this market, to Australia. And it shows that we can do it, and we can continue to do with added value products. It's a matter of believing, and it's a matter of knowing how, and promoting mutual knowledge. And this is what we have been doing here, creating this awareness and promoting this mutual knowledge. Congratulations once more for the initiative of the Business Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry?
Before you talk, I want to say something to agree with Sergio and Joaquim. Right now, I'm supporting an Italian company to sell ceramic tiles in Brazil. For those who doesn't know, Brazil is one of the top 3 producers of ceramic tile in the world. Okay, one of the top 5 to export around the world. And these tiles that I'm selling in Brazil is more than 20 times more expensive than any tile in Brazil. But we are doing quite well right now. So my message for everybody, Italians, they are not afraid to sell in Brazil. What they are looking for is exactly what Igor said. They are looking for margins. They don't care if the Brazilians will copy the product. They have margin to create something more specific for an issue and to sell in Brazil and everywhere. So sometimes what we have in Brazil, we are afraid. We are afraid to create something new. We are afraid to someone in China that will copy our products. Doesn't matter if they will copy. If they have the regulation and if they follow the standards, they can sell well in Australia. Why we cannot sell 10% of what they are selling in Australia right now? We can see the figures from Joaquim and Igor presentation. We are selling peanuts in Australia right now. There is one company that is doing quite well in Australia since 10, 20 years ago. Havaianas, they are selling 100 and 1,000 pieces. Why we cannot sell more? So they are developing products only for the Australians. This is something that we have to do. Create something new. Thank you, Thais.
Excellent. Thank you, Geraldo. And Sergio, are you going to say something? We can't hear you because your microphone is off.
Yeah. No, but what I think that we are doing well. You know, we are, as it was shown, we are selling highly added products, and for the mining sector, we are selling trucks, we are selling mining equipment, we are selling building equipment. So we are in the right track, but we can do it much more, and this is what we are doing. And I think this purchase, the Embraer coming back strongly into this market will create the necessary energy for us to be moving.
Excellent. Thank you so much to the Ambassador of Brazil in Canberra, Sergio Moreira Lima, for sharing. And I love the message because it's a message of hope. It's a message that we are at the right moment. Embraer kicking off the first goal, right? And just to really build that momentum for all of the businesses that do want to enter the market, for all of the exports, just to showcase. I love this example because it really showcases when everyone thought that the travel industry, and especially the airlines, will be failing, we get an order of that size of planes from Embraer. That's just to show how strong our exports can be and what the potential is. So I love to use a little bit of the first goal in the season, right? So the first goal in the big season ahead of us of really increasing these exports.
Can I just say something in there, Thais, in addition to what the ambassador has actually said? I believe that there is actually a lot of opportunities in Australia, but a lot of Brazilian companies don't know too much about it. They actually are not aware that we actually have those opportunities. Those opportunities come and they go under the radar, and they end up on the available for other companies, especially in the Asian region here, and our Brazilian companies are missing on this. So we have been able to work closer with Austrade and to the Department of Foreign Affairs here in Australia to understand a little bit more about what are the opportunities that are being offered to a lot of the countries. And sometimes I think that our Brazilian counterparts, companies, they don't know that those opportunities exist. I was recently looking for companies that could actually help on the 5G deployment in here, and we ended up that one of the Brazilian companies that have an office here in North Sydney, we have been talking to them, and they have been able to capture a lot of that market, and even they brought some technicians from Brazil to actually help on this new deployment of the 5G. That's one of them. There are so many opportunities that actually happen, and they are worth millions and millions of dollars for that could actually be, kind of connected. So I urge the Brazilian companies to talk more with Apex, to talk more with the Australian Brazil Business Council, with the Chamber of Commerce, with the embassy, with SECOM, because we do have connection to a lot of those opportunities that sometimes are presented to us. We are here among different entrepreneurs in Australia, And there is a lot of opportunities. Just a question of being connected and actually not miss that opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much, Gleuto.
We should not lose sight of the fact that Australia has the household income per capita in the world. And this means that the opportunities are there, the money is there, and the purchasing power is there. Yeah, and I think that Gleuto is right. What we should do is we should better coordinate with Apex. And I think Apex is an important tool for us to coordinate inside Brazil with the companies and go beyond the sectors that Geraldo, no, Igor, Celeste has shown. I think we have to go much beyond textiles and fashion, because we have a strong service sector, and so not only trading goods but trading services, and as this Embraer case will export will show us, is that services will increase significantly. You know? And from there, we have the students, also the purchase of education from Brazil, and which is also significant. So if we consider services in this equation in terms of trade of service, you see that we are talking about much more than we can see right now, just talking about goods. But even in goods, the possibilities are enormous, and we have to better coordinate ourselves to be able to increase our numbers. Thank you very much, and congratulations for all of you.
Excellent. Well,
yeah. Sorry, Thais. Can I interrupt you?
Let's do a wrap up, guys. The last comment from everyone, but please do, Igor.
Yeah. No, thank you. Just to agree with Mr. Ambassador, and just to say, Mr. Ambassador, that yesterday, or the day before yesterday, I was talking to the business director in Apex-Brasil, Mr. Augusto Pestana, minister also from Itamaraty. And also I talked with Mr. Sergio Segovia, our president, and I was talking to them. And the main conclusion I got when I saw the numbers and I saw the relationship, I said to them, well, we are losing money in Australia. That's the main conclusion. So they are well, let's say they are well, they know very well the conclusion I got. So they are aware about the possibilities and about the urge we have to try to explore more this market.
Excellent. Joaquim, would you like to share?
I think the ambassador is talking, but with the mic off.
Sorry, yeah.
Turn it off. Sorry. Thank you, Thais.
Thank you. We still can't hear you. Sorry.
Posso falar, não?
We have to do it fast because the opportunities are there, and we should not, as the Embraer shows, no? We should not wait. We should be in a hurry, because the opportunities are there and people are distracting themselves with this pandemic COVID, and we should show our faces in this moment. We should not wait. We should be more forward looking and more believing in ourselves and more active, because we can do it, and we can do it now. This is the right moment.
Thank you. I'll pass it along to Joaquim to say his last words.
Thank you, Thais. After all those comments, I think I don't have much to add. I just wanted to wrap up with a general idea, I think, is that we have a lot of opportunities here. Australia is a very affluent, very rich country, which is very open to the foreign trade, and it's has a very small industrial base right now, so it buys a lot of products abroad, and Brazil exports a lot of those products, and it's a very wide range of products and services it imports Australia. And as the ambassador mentioned, that means that there's different paths. We have the small companies, as Igor mentioned, that produce a lot of things that Australia buys, but also big companies like Embraer. And that means that in big companies, we do need to have a different kind of trade promotion. We do need to work more closely with local governments and the local companies, because it's big buys, big businesses. But also we do need to help those small companies that export a lot from Brazil, and that have a lot of opportunities here in Australia. That's it. Thank you.
Excellent, everyone. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we could stay a few more hours having this conversation, right? But I am mindful of everyone's time. So a big thank you to all our panelists. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for jumping in and sharing your thoughts. I actually like to emphasize a few things that you said. It's about using this momentum and not hesitating. Let's not hesitate. Let's really use this opportunity to put a foot forward and to start establishing these connections. And what better way to celebrate the 75th year of our diplomatic relationships than actually putting it forward and using this moment, not to just be a symbol, not to yell at 75 years celebrating. Let's make it mean something bigger than just a number. Let's make it mean a growth in our exports and imports. Let's a growth in this relationship to the benefit of both countries. So there's an opportunity here. Let's really use this opportunity. Thank you everyone else who participated. Thank you for all our volunteers, for our sponsors, for our supporters. If you do, for all of you who attended, if you do want to have more information, we shared our contacts. Everyone shares their contact in the chat function. And we will also be sharing this presentation and all the details at the end with a lot of useful information. So keep an eye out for that email. We will also like to give you extend the invite to our next B.Talks. So as you know, we do these every first Thursday of the month, and the next one would be September 3rd, and we will be talking about the Brazilian economy outlook, which I think it would be a great segue from this conversation to really look at what the economy is doing and where we're going after the pandemic and everything is finally solved. But again, guys, thank you so much for everyone's contribution and your energy. And I think I'd like to wrap up with a very positive and optimistic remark. Let's, again, Ambassador, I'm going to quote you again. Let's use this momentum and do not hesitate. Now is the time to strengthen the relationships. So let's do that. And if you're watching, if you want to know how, just reach out to us. Thank you so much for watching today. We appreciate your time, and I'll see you next time.
See you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ambassador, we can hear you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We still can't hear you, Ambassador. Sorry.
Thank you.
Ambassador is on mute.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's not every day that we can conclude a meeting like that with this information of the sale of this thing. So this is not an ordinary thing. We should be upbeat by such an important information and think about it. And so this is the right message. It was very opportune. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. It was a pleasure. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you, Thais.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you,
Bye-bye,
Thais.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Igor. Thank you, Geraldo. Thank you, Joaquim. Thank you, Gleuto.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Carol.
Bye.
Very good job, Carol. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
As usual.
Congratulations, Thais.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for
Everything was
participating.
great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
And thank you for everyone who attended. I hope we do have a few opportunities coming through the door after this one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank
I
you.
got it.
That's great.